Back in the day, kettlebell training used to be about doing a wide variety of exercises. Now all I see people doing are swing, goblet, squat, and snatch. So how did it get like this? When Pavel Tsatsouline created the RKC and he brought the kettlebell to the States, he brought with it his kettlebell sport background. Kettlebell sport only does snatch, jerk, and long cycle, which is the clean and jerk. That's a very limited set of exercises. When my mentors, Steve Maxwell and Steve Cotter, joined the RKC, they brought with them a vast variety of exercises that they had in their backgrounds. Steve Maxwell came from a wrestling background, and he's the one that introduced the Turkish get-up, the TGU, to the RKC. Steve Cotter came from a martial arts background, a background I happened to share with him, and he brought with him a whole plethora of exercises. Both Steves eventually left and started their own organizations. After that, the RKC under Pavel's programming started to get very narrow, especially with the Naked Warrior. They had a whole variety of bodyweight exercises that they were using, but with the Naked Warrior, it got boiled down to only 3. The pistol, the one-arm pull-up, and the one-arm push-up. The intentions were good, but not everybody could do those. Working towards those as a progression is fine, but a lot of people needed a much wider variety, and frankly, not everybody wanted to be able to do a one-arm pull-up and a one-arm push-up, or the pistol. What about fat loss? What about other things? They weren't really covered in that program. To make matters worse, Pavel then introduced Simple and Sinister, which in my opinion was a complete disaster. Why on earth would you want to buy kettlebells and do 2 movements with it? It makes no sense. But the RKC programming, and then Strong First under its later evolution, all of a sudden became about doing the least amount of exercises and doing super high volume with them. These kettlebell death marches, as I call them, are about doing a very limited amount of exercises and doing really high volume. This almost always leads to overtraining, injury, and complete boredom with the kettlebell. If you're going to be working out for 30 minutes, why not do the wider variety of exercises that I'm showing in this video instead of just doing 1 or 2? When I make programs for people, I always put 5 to 6 different exercises in each workout. This is much more balanced. Then kettlebell sport got introduced to America, and things really got narrowed down. Again, the aforementioned snatch, long cycle, and jerk became the focus of a lot of kettlebell training. When Steve Cotter took the IKFF in the direction of sport kettlebell, I told him flat out, nobody came to me in order to lift kettlebells. They came to me to get strong, to lose fat, to build muscle, to maintain mobility. It was about general fitness. It wasn't about lifting the kettlebell as much as you could. So I left and created Kettlebell Quest. The system that I teach is based on the old school hard style idea of doing a much wider variety of exercises, but training each one of them hard. On the one hand, I get it. The swing and the snatch are what made the kettlebell famous. The shape of the kettlebell as an object makes it ideal for swinging. Nothing else even comes close. Likewise, the weight distribution in the snatch with the kettlebell hanging off the back of your arm is also unique, because then you have to stabilize the core to a much greater degree than you would with a dumbbell. So that again makes that special. But again, if you're going to buy a set of kettlebells and you're going to work out for 30 minutes several times a week, why on earth would you restrict yourself to such a small group of exercises when you could be doing a larger variety that I'm showing in this video? For one thing, if you're looking at building muscle, the ballistic lifts of swing and snatch can be useful, but they're not nearly as useful as the grinds. And a lot of grinds these days have simply been cut out because of the kettlebell sport influence. If you're a guy or a girl and you're looking at gaining muscle, grinds are where you need to be. However, those seem to be considered almost incorrect these days. Learning a wider variety of moves will make those smaller bells that you don't use so much anymore much more useful. For example, try the double kettlebell overhead rack squat and see how that works. Most of you are going to have to go way down, so that makes those bells, those lighter bells, still useful. The third advantage is injury prevention. If you have a wider variety of moves, you're much less likely to get hurt compared to, say, doing the snatch for 10 minutes straight. Next, a wider variety of moves will help you maintain mobility. Using the same motor patterns over and over again creates tightness. Variety can help you loosen up. Last, all kettlebell complexes and movements are armor building, not just certain complexes. Expanding the variety of exercises you do leads to better value out of the bells, leads to more interesting workouts, and frankly adds a lot more fun to what you're doing. Just say no to the kettlebell death marches. Try some of these exercises and see what you think.